How many of you guys played the telephone game in kindergarten and couldn't make it through 6 people without messing up the message? That argument is used to try to disprove the credibility of the Bible, and I'm going to destroy that argument right now. Welcome, everybody, to the Screwup Chronicles YouTube channel. I am your host, Robbie Millar. This is the quick hitter video 2 of our quick hitter series, and this one is going to be based on the validity of the Bible and the oral tradition of the Bible. This is going to be like drinking from a fire hose. I'm going to hit a lot of notes. It's just the tip of the iceberg, though, because I just want to get the quick 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of the information out there. If you are new to this channel, I am Robbie Millar. I am the host of this podcast and YouTube channel, and also I control my Instagram and Facebook, obviously. There's no advertising done for these channels. So all that I ask is that if you get something out of this video, that you please share it with somebody that you know or somebody that you think is going to get some value out of it. Also, please like, subscribe, comment, all that on this video if you get something out of it. If you don't, throw it away. And sorry for wasting 5 minutes of your time. Before we get started again, guys, thank you guys so much for the people that have liked and subscribed to the video series and also to the people on my podcast. That thing is growing more and more. If you're not on my podcast, go check it out. It's on Google, it's on Anchor, it's on Apple, it's everywhere you get a podcast, Spotify. And there is a difference between the two. I do exclusive content over there on the podcast. I also do exclusive content over here on YouTube. So, and if you don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on the gram as well, because I do a little bit of B-roll and backstage, if you will, stuff. Just give you a little bit more insight into my normal everyday life. So the telephone game, right? So a lot of people talk about how the Bible cannot possibly be accurate because it has been handed down from generation to generation to generation verbally. And that their reasoning behind that is that when they were in kindergarten, they played the telephone game and they couldn't make it to 6 people without messing up the information. This argument is fundamentally flawed for one major reason. The major reason that this argument is fundamentally flawed is that, excuse me, oral tradition is not like the telephone game. The telephone game was designed for you to fail. You guys had to whisper it to each other, right? The person who told you couldn't tell you again, okay? That was designed for you guys to fail. It was an exercise in communication. Oral tradition was nothing like that. Oral tradition was considered the only way that information was passed down. It wasn't considered. It was the only way that information was passed down, and it was considered an honor to be able to pass that information down. And it was done so in such a manner that people made it a point to remember the details. How did they do this? So whoever told the story obviously was originally there. So let's talk about, Jesus being crucified. Whoever told the Jesus crucifixion story was there when it happened, okay? And for them to share that, they would share it in a group of people. Now, other people would generally be there that were also at the crucifixion. So if details were incorrect in his telling of the story, they would correct him, right? So years go by, he tells the story, and now he's getting older and he needs somebody to pass this information on. The people that were allowed to pass this information on and considered credible on it were in training to be able to do so. So they would go out with the person who taught them the story and tell the story. And the person who was there originally when Jesus was crucified was there when the other person was telling the story. So that again, if he got any details wrong, they would be able to correct him. Generally, when they were telling these stories, they were telling them to people who were also there, right? So it's oral traditions done differently than the telephone game. This would be like if doing the telephone game, instead of me whispering it to you, I was able to tell you in a room separate of everybody else. And then we went out and told the next person. And if you got something wrong, I could say, no, that's not what I said. Remember, what I said was this. And then you went with that person, and when they told the story, and then you went with that person, that is not an exact representation of how oral tradition works. So the argument that the telephone game is a reason why the Bible can't be accurate is completely asinine. It's a stupid argument is really what it is. I actually used to use that argument. That's the funny thing about this video that I'm doing. I used to say that all the time. And then as I walked in faith and as I learned how things were done, I learned how oral tradition was done. And I learned the importance of oral tradition. In regards to the Bible not being accurate, the Gospels were written within 30 years, 30 to 60 years, 30 to 90 years of when it actually happened. This is the only historical document that we have that was actually written so close to the events that happened that we don't consider a historical document, that isn't just widely accepted as a historical document. Homer's Iliad was written thousands of years after the things happened. It's the Greek manuscript. And yet we consider that to be 100% accurate. We made movies about it, right? Christianity, the Gospels, the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, were written within 30 to 90 years after the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which means when they were written, people were alive who were there. So if it didn't happen the way that Matthew, Mark, Luke, John said it happened, people that were alive when it happened would be able to correct it. And there are precisely 0 manuscripts that contradict the Bible and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Precisely 0. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of manuscripts of the New Testament found all over the world in multiple different languages. And in fact, again, historically, we have more copies of the New Testament that we have found than we have found of any other historical document. And yet, it is not considered historically accurate. Think about that for a second. We have more of them. It was written closer to the time that the events actually happened than any other historical document, but we don't consider it factual. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So people were there. Oral tradition is strong. It was written when people were still alive who were there that could have contradicted it. It was written in such a manner that it was actually embarrassing to the Christian faith. The fact that, let's just again take Jesus' resurrection as an example, the fact that the empty tomb was found by women was an embarrassment to the Christian faith. Women, sorry ladies, back then weren't even considered human beings. They weren't counted in censuses. They were considered property. So the fact that the historical document didn't say somebody major had found the empty tomb and then it actually said that women found the empty tomb was an embarrassment to the people who were there. But it wasn't left out of the story. The fact that, again, people were there who could have discounted the story didn't. We have more historical documents than we do for any other historical document. It was written in such a manner that it was an embarrassment to Christianity. It was written closer to the time that the events actually happened than basically any other historical document that we have, any of the major ones or a lot of major ones. These are all great reasons to believe in the validity of the Holy Bible. But yet, people refuse to believe these facts. Refuse. For no other reason than it's hard to believe. But yet, my previous video, if you haven't watched that one, go back and watch it, talks about how it's actually easier to believe that it did happen than it is to believe that it didn't happen. There's a lot more reasons or ways to validate the Christian Bible than I have given you here. This is just the quick little hit, and it was intended to be that way. It's just, these are brain nuggets to get you thinking a little bit and asking the question, is this real? Is God real? Is this a possibility? That's what these videos were designed for. And if you have questions, hit me up, screwupchronicles@gmail.com. Hit me on Facebook, Screwup Chronicles. Hit me on Instagram. Hit me here. Just think. Take this information for a second, just a split second, and think. Again, this isn't the answer, end all, know all. I know people are going to get into the comments and be like, well, what about this and what about that? And I'm great. I will gladly discuss that with you because that is what this is about. So don't think this is all the information. I have way more coming. Anyways, 2 more videos coming up in this video series. Thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing to the channel, liking the podcast. I will catch you guys next time. I am Robbie Millar. Thank you, Screw Up Nation.